Hi. So today's review is for anyone frustrated by the amount of low-grade, brain rot, slop content that pollutes the internet. It's of a channel that many see as a rare gem on YouTube, and it goes places I didn't really see coming. This channel is hosted by a lady who started out almost 15 years ago posting videos from her home kitchen showing you how to make Pokemon cake decorations.
And there he is, all finished.
And has become a go-to expert in misinformation, calling out some of the most prolific liars on the internet.
They take something they know doesn't work and they're presenting it in a way to tell you that it does work.
Her channel on the surface is about how to make elaborate cakes and desserts.
With a crispy base, a cinnamon donut flavoured mousse, a strawberry gel and a coffee cremo.
But really, it's about truth, trust and trickery in the online world.
That one is fake. That one was completely fake. It's just another fake cooking hack. Everything about this video was faked.
And a warning of the perils of an information environment driven by algorithms.
I have some big questions for YouTube that they won't answer.
And this review is especially for anyone who has ever been tricked by a viral video hack into, say, trying to get creases out of your new shoes by smearing them with butter and putting them in the freezer.
Okay, well, let's test this one out. It's not like they would have switched the shoes on us in the freezer, is it?
Or maybe you were amused by this flexible drill trick for tight spots that definitely works. Or maybe you've simply wondered what the hell is the point of all the bizarre videos that flood your feed like this one, where disembodied hands cut a pear in half, smear it with toothpaste, which they spread with a plastic ruler, then stick toothpicks into it to attach it to half an orange, and then bury it in the soil. Spoiler. A lot of this stuff leads back to a couple of Russian entrepreneurs who were once accused of trying to spread foreign propaganda via an animated talking banana.
Hey, Mr. Banana, how are you doing?
That's the world we're in now, guys. Welcome to the Internet Reviewed, where I'm taking a look at the online world, one content creator at a time, to help you know who's worth following and when to smash that mute button. Today, if you hadn't already worked it out, I'm reviewing How to Cook That, hosted by food scientist and dietitian Anne Reardon. This is a pretty big YouTube channel. It's got about 5 million subscribers. It's put out over 500 videos since 2011, and it was sent in as a viewer suggestion. So here's a voice note from Josh outlining why he rates the channel.
Cooking is common experience for many. Cooking is just chemistry. Chemistry can be dangerous, and the jargon of chemistry is exploited often by marketers in emotive ways. Anne at How to Cook That, with her food science bona fides, kindly and warmly disarms the jargon and calls out the bullshit. Thanks to her, I'm simply better informed when wandering the grocery aisle. Although her taste buds do betray her when it comes to delicious Vegemite.
Anne, apparently, does not like Vegemite.
Just the worst.
But we won't hold that against her. Anyway, I think Josh's take is bang on. There's loads to love about How to Cook That, even if you're not a baker. It offers creatively presented science education.
Some metals are very good thermal conductors, which means they quickly move the heat from the air in the oven into the metal and into the cake batter on the other side.
Well-researched, independent consumer advice.
So today we're just going to take an unbiased look at milk and milk alternatives. I am not affiliated with any of these products, any of the companies, not affiliated with the dairy industry or the plant-based milk industry. I am just going to give you an unbiased look at both of them so you can make up your own mind.
From those humble beginnings in Anne's kitchen, How to Cook That has evolved into a channel with really good production values, and it's one doing genuine journalism, with Anne travelling the world talking to experts about issues like microplastics.
This beach in Spain has 2,000 microplastics per kilo of sand. And I'm here to talk with Professor Jacquem, an expert in microplastics, to find out what all this means for our health.
And GMOs.
So I've come here to Chuggask, the Agriculture and Food Development Authority in Ireland, to ask Dr. Ewan Mullins, the head of the Crop Science Department, all of my questions.
She's done really informative explainers on gluten.
Gluten-free products tend to taste very dry in your mouth. And a way that manufacturers overcome that dryness is they add more fat. So you'd think you'd add more moisture, but Fat actually gives that moist mouthfeel.
And deep dives into the research on artificial sweeteners.
There are a lot of studies. This is a portion of the studies that are just about aspartame and cancer.
There are, of course, her excellent debunking videos, which we'll get to in a minute. And she even does videos exposing false advertising.
They cannot, I repeat, cannot do anything that is misleading or deceptive that would cause you to buy their product or pay a higher price for their product than you would have if you knew that it wasn't true.
You know what? The channel actually reminds me a lot of a TV show I used to watch. And on top of all the great content, Anne just has a really lovely, calm vibe about her. You'll see loads of comments like this one on her videos.
I watch her almost every night as I fall asleep. Her voice and whole affect are so comforting to me. She's like snuggling up on the couch with your grandma and mug of hot chocolate.
By the way, that reaction to her content has been a nice surprise for Anne.
I honestly thought people would only watch my videos if they wanted to make the recipe. I've since learned that people watch it because they find they love the Australian accent, or they find my voice relaxing and they watch it when they're angry and they want to calm down. There's all sorts of reasons people watch. There are lots of bakers and there are lots of people who just love watching.
You're like Xanax for people out there.
Apparently so.
Okay, so I want to give a bit of the backstory to this channel because I think it's an interesting story in and of itself, but I also think it's one that tells us something about how the internet has been evolving. So, Anne started How to Cook That while she was pregnant with her third child.
And I knew from having 2 kids before that although it's physically demanding and tiring, my mind would get really quite bored of the nappy routine. So I thought I need something to do while I am on maternity leave. So I thought I'll start a website, write down all my recipes that everyone keeps asking me for. And so that's what I did. And then occasionally I would put a video on if it was easier to show than it was to write. So particularly cake decorating, it's quite hard to explain how to shape a piece of fondant to make something specific. It's much easier to show it.
Well, those demonstration videos took off. YouTube noticed and started emailing Anne to see whether she wanted to monetize her content.
And I just ignored their emails because I thought it's not going to make any money. What's the point? And then eventually I literally filled out their form to stop them emailing me and then went, hang on a minute, this could be my part-time job. Instead of going back to work, I could stay at home, which I really wanted to do.
And that turned out to be exactly what happened, except it was more like a full-time job. Anne's video guides on how to make her incredible desserts and cake creations made her channel a huge hit. And by 2014, she was one of Australia's first YouTube stars.
Meet our YouTube baking queen.
YouTube star uses sugar to attract an army of followers.
How to cook your way to YouTube success.
But in around 2018, her content started heading in a different direction.
Welcome to How to Cook That. I'm Anne Reardon, and today I thought it would be fun to look at one of the most successful baking channels on YouTube.
This wasn't Anne's first debunking video, but it was the first time she took aim at the perpetrators of a very annoying online trend. She called out a much bigger baking channel than hers, one called So Yummy, for publishing recipes that simply do not work, or totally misrepresent how they've been done.
This is huge, this channel. So it's got to be good, right? Because YouTube recommends good content, quality content is king, good videos get views, right? Yeah. So let's take a look.
This So Yummy channel put out videos supposedly showing how you can make cake frosting out of melted ice cream. Not possible. Or dried herbs by putting fresh ones in the microwave. Doesn't work. Or supposedly melting gummy bears down for a dessert when it's pretty obvious they were using actual jelly. And Anne didn't just call them out for their fakery, she demonstrated that their recipes didn't work.
How am I going to get this out without breaking the glass? How did their spoon just slide right through the gummy part? And mine doesn't. I must I've done it wrong. It must be my mistake. I'll just go make it again with some Jello. Did I misread the recipe? Was I supposed to use jelly or Jello? There you go. Now it's working.
And I just want to note that she did this very comprehensive debunking in a very gentle and lovely way, which is very unlike the internet.
I love how she is nicely and sarcastically roasting them in the nicest way ever.
But the other important point that Anne was making was that these garbage fake recipe videos weren't just annoying for viewers who end up wasting time and money trying to recreate them. They were also a problem for genuine content creators.
So let's face facts. Ordinary YouTube bakers are being pushed out of existence by content farms who upload so often that genuine baking videos just can't seem to get through all of that content farm content anymore. Here's the views per month from the top 5 baking YouTubers for the last 2 years, and here's content farm views. The whole how-to area is just being overtaken by these ones.
And alas, the flood of spammy videos from those content farms, combined with some changes to the way YouTube's algorithm worked, basically crushed Anne's baking success.
All the views on all the baking channels just diminished straight away, overnight. And it was just this, keep doing baking and you won't have a channel, essentially. So we pivoted, because I have a food science degree and a dietitian's degree, we pivoted into doing food science.
That pivot thankfully paid off, particularly when Anne used her expertise to do more debunking, calling out the lies of the content farm channels. People loved that.
Due to popular demand, here is another episode of Debunking where we test to see what is real and what is fake.
And that's sort of become her new niche. Viewers send in viral recipes or hacks they've seen online, and Anne tests them out, often getting her husband and kids to help by trying the end product.
How good's debunking?
Her debunking playlist includes episodes where she's looked into things like immortal roses.
It says that vodka helps stop roses from wilting.
Or how to dry age steak by coating it in cheese wax for 6 months.
I covered the whole steak with it. See, my hopes is that this is going to make the steak better.
This was on YouTube Shorts with millions of views, and I have a few things to say straight away. Number 1, don't do this.
She's investigated more than a few that are pretty much guaranteed to destroy your microwave.
I should not have opened that. The smell was so pungent and so bad that I had to take the whole microwave outside even though it was pouring with rain.
Wow, I'm not eating that.
Or worse, kill you, like the fractal wood burning craze of a few years ago, which killed dozens of people.
Essentially, it uses electricity to burn a lightning or a tree-like pattern into wood that's been dampened. The results are unique every time, and it does look pretty impressive, which is why people want to try it for themselves. Then they head over to YouTube and find more videos showing people doing it, including how-to videos that show you how to make your own fractal wood burning device using parts from an old microwave. There is just no margin for error here. One little lapse in concentration, one little error, and you're dead. It's not a good hack for anyone to try.
Crazy little addendum to this one. YouTube banned Anne's video pointing out the dangers of this hack, telling her,
"Our team has reviewed your content and unfortunately we think it violates our harmful and dangerous policy. Content that encourages or promotes harmful or dangerous activities that have a risk of serious physical harm or death are not allowed on YouTube."
At first, Anne thought, oh, well, good, maybe they've banned all videos on fractal wood burning. But nope.
When I searched on YouTube for fractal wood burning using a microwave transformer, the videos are all still there on how to do it. There's how-to videos that show in detail how to get a microwave transformer and plug all the parts in to make a fractal wood burning machine.
Anne did challenge the ban, and YouTube did end up reinstating her video, but it's a good case study in how algorithms don't always have good judgment. Now, I just want to mention something that I find really nice about Anne's debunking videos, which is that every now and then she investigates something that turns out to be legit, like this one on how to make vegan honey out of cat grass.
So does this work? Yes, it does. It's a great demonstration of the use of enzymes in food production to change the qualities of the food.
Although technically, as Anne points out, it's not honey.
Is it honey? Well, no, it's not made by bees, so it's not honey. This is rice syrup.
Or this one claiming apple cider vinegar can help reduce blood sugar spikes.
Consume it 20 minutes before consuming some carbohydrates, and this will reduce those glucose spikes by up to 30%.
To test this one, Anne hooked herself up to a blood glucose monitor and plotted a graph showing the results.
This effect has been studied extensively. There's heaps of research on it. And having between 2 and 6 tablespoons of vinegar, either as a drink before the meal or as a dressing on the meal, really does blunt that blood glucose response and slow it right down.
Now, I've always assumed that anything involving apple cider vinegar is a scam, so I really appreciated Anne taking the time to investigate that one thoroughly and explain why it's thought to work. Now, you can't help but notice, after you've watched quite a bit of Anne's debunking content, that there's one company in particular making heaps of these dodgy videos.
5 Minute Crafts, 5 Minute Crafts, 5 Minute Crafts.
5 Minute Crafts is apparently the most watched DIY digital brand in the world. It's one of hundreds of YouTube channels and Facebook pages owned by a company called The Soul Publishing, which is based in Cyprus and was founded by a couple of Russian entrepreneurs. If you're super online, you might already be well across this. There's been quite a lot written about 5 Minute Crafts and The Soul Publishing and other content farms over the years. I'm going to link to some really useful articles in the blurb for those of you who would like to read more. I also encourage you to check out The Soul Publishing's website. It feels to me a lot like something out of an episode of Black Mirror. But there are two main points I want to make in this video about The Soul Publishing. The first is that this is one of the world's most prolific digital media companies. It's got over 2 billion followers. That's across all the platforms that it's on: YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, Snapchat, etc. The point is, if you're on social media, you've almost certainly seen a video from The Soul Publishing at some point, knowingly or not. And it's mostly innocuous, if somewhat annoying, stuff. But here's the second thing I think you should know. A few years ago, The Soul Publishing did attract some unwanted attention for publishing political content, including pro-Russian versions of histories that contained inaccurate information. So we're talking stuff like, playing down some of the bad things Stalin did, or saying Ukraine is a part of Russia. And you know how it is, where there are Russians doing weird things on the internet, there are going to be people suspecting they're up to no good. Now, for what it's worth, The Soul Publishing put out a statement strongly denying they were up to anything nefarious.
The Soul Publishing's content is entertaining, fun, and amusing. However, we acknowledge that, on occasion, has also been factually incorrect. This self-reflection surfaced last week when select media outlets attempted to falsely label us as a foreign propaganda machine. While this label is absolutely untrue and honestly hurtful, these same media outlets did accurately bring to light factual mistakes in a very small portion of the videos which we created. The published videos, often presented by an animated talking banana, focused around history, specifically Russia, United States, and several additional countries. The videos were loose with facts and at times conveyed incorrect information.
They took down the content, said they would review their internal fact-checking process, and made an editorial decision to no longer post any historical-focused content. Now, Anne Reardon's husband, Dave, is actually a former journalist, and he looked into all of this for the How to Cook That channel. And I recommend you watch their video with his take on the whole saga. I think he had a really sensible approach when he was weighing this all up.
So, The Soul Publishing says, hey, leave us alone. We're just crazy fun guys with hot glue guns. We're not up to anything. We're not biased media. We're not doing propaganda. But I'm not sure that allays everybody's fears. Here's a question for you then. Is it just because it's foreign media that we're suspicious? Like, it's sort of the Bond villain idea of the rich guy with the different accent must be some sort of super criminal.
Now, whether 5 Minute Crafts is a Russian psyop or not, I think it's clear that these content farms are a problem. And I think I have found the perfect person to talk to about how to combat them. Because while I was researching for this review, I came across this academic paper, which is all about how Anne Reardon's channel is fighting the good fight against content farms. So let's talk to the person who wrote it.
My name's Beth Downey, and I'm a professor and popular culture librarian at Mississippi State University. I wrote a paper and presented it in 2022 called DIY Disinformation: using fake crafting videos to combat fake news.
Beth's been teaching for almost 20 years, showing undergrad students how to research, how to find good information. And she says that in around 2016,
we started getting more requests from our English instructors on, hey, our students are not finding good information. A lot of the information they're finding is misinformation. And so I started pivoting towards evaluating sources. And I was surfing YouTube as one does, and I came across Anne Reardon's channel, How to Cook That, and found a lot of the debunking videos. And I thought this would be a very unique way to teach about misinformation, because it's one thing to teach about fake news headlines, but most of the research we do online is find me a recipe for chicken spaghetti, or hey, my knee clicks when I walk. What could that be? So those are the searches that we're really doing. And she was showing in a very relatable and entertaining way how some of these quote unquote cooking hacks were really just bunk.
And while Beth was using Anne's videos to teach her students, she was herself learning something from Anne.
And really, I have to give her credit because honestly, she's where I realized what content farms were. So she was the one that took me down the rabbit hole of what content farms consisted of, that they're not just about crafting and cooking channels. And a lot of them are not just doing kind of these fake baking videos, but are putting out legitimately dangerous misinformation.
And whether the content these farms are putting out is harmless or harmful, they've got one thing in common.
Just imagine like a old-fashioned cash register going ka-ching. Or a casino slot. Every time that video gets clicked, they're making more money off of it. The more popular it becomes, YouTube's algorithm will be like, okay, we need to add more ads to this so that, more ads get seen.
And if we're just mindlessly scrolling, we end up passively staring at it.
It's a volume game. It's a numbers game. These content farms really put out massive amounts of content, usually pretty low quality. Lots of fast edits. They're usually very short videos. They don't really have a lot of dialogue. There's no voiceover. There's usually some happy music. And I kind of liken it to like multi-sensory ASMR. So it's that kind of thing where you just kind of put it on the background and you watch it, not necessarily because you think you're going to learn a cooking skill, but because it's just kind of fascinating.
Now, if you really love these videos and are happy to have them in your feed, I don't want to yuck your yum or anything, so feel free to ignore this next bit. But if you're like me and would prefer a world where genuine and independent content creators who are putting out really valuable, good stuff have more of a chance, then Beth says there are a few things you can do.
So the first thing I would say is follow legitimate creators. Find actual content creators where you know their face, you know their voice, and you know that they make mistakes. Another thing is turn off autoplay. Do not let the algorithm feed you. It's like in my paper, I use the analogy of if you have a cat that's on a diet, you don't give them an automatic feeder that just constantly pumps food to them. Starve the algorithm. Even if you hit, I dislike this, or if you comment, this sucks, this doesn't work, you are still feeding it, is still giving it attention. So the one thing to do if you see, or if this comes across your feed, is report. Report it to YouTube for misinformation, for false information, and then click out of them.
It doesn't make sense to me that beautifully filmed channels like this one that are factually correct and actually help educate you hardly get any views or subscribers, and yet 5 Minute Crafts continues to get millions of views and be promoted.
It really doesn't make sense. Unless you acknowledge that we may be entering a post-literate society, but hey, that's a topic for another video for another time. I feel I should note that there is a small irony in all this algorithm bashing that we've been doing, which is that Anne has been able to work out what sort of content will make the algorithm work for her. The debunking stuff is what tends to do really well. So yes, the algorithm can and does sometimes surface good stuff. It's just that breaking through all that other stuff is such a big challenge. And the debunking really isn't what Anne wants to be doing.
So the debunking is something that works, right? Okay.
Yeah.
And is there a greater joy in it, or would you be like, hey, look, if we could just go back to the baking, that'd be great? I mean, I'm assuming there is some sort of joy in helping correct a wrong and highlighting a truth, but what is that for you?
There is, but I think personally I prefer the baking. I feel like baking and just showing people how to make something is a very positive space, whereas the debunking is sort of the controversial negative space.
Still, the debunking is just one part of Anne's channel, and there's so much more there that is in the positive space. And yes, obviously, I fully recommend following or at least checking out How to Cook That. It's great for cooking. It's good for science education and nutrition information and consumer advice. It's fun and it's really good family viewing. As I alluded to earlier in this video, if you remember and liked The Checkout, which was a consumer affairs TV show that I used to work on the ABC here in Australia, there's a really good chance, I think, that you'll be into Anne's channel. It covers so much of the same territory. That's all from me and Kenny for now. Thanks again to Josh for sending in the suggestion, and thanks to Beth Downey for chatting with me. If you have any feedback or suggestions for other creators you'd like to see reviewed, feel free to leave a comment or email me at theinternetreviewed@gmail.com. Thanks.